here on National Hot Dog Day. If we can bring in, hey, we got a hot dog with us, Brian Snow, the Snowman, star broadcaster from the U.S. of A. Hey, Snowman, one sec from our audience regarding the Edmonton Elks. Should they change their name back to Eskimos in the CFL? Darcy in Grand Prairie writes in, he says, imagine if the Montreal Canadiens changed their name because a few loud Leafs fans were offended at them being called Canadians. It's ridiculous. Brian from Hudson's Bay says, oh, great, I'm a Vikings fan. Thanks, Moose. He's got the Vikings picked last in the NFC North. And regarding National Hot Dog Day, Jim in Balgony writes, and he says, hot dogs or not, I'm hitting up the Mad Greek every time I'm in the jaw. Snowman, what do you like on your hot dog? How do you take it?
A little bit of everything. I'm from Chicago, so I always had loaded hot dogs, man. I take a little bit of everything on it.
For me, it's just 2 strips of ketchup right to each side of the dog. Let's go. And barring that, nothing else. I'll eat it raw. Nothing else. Snowman, so you're from Chicago. Since I've known you, you've lived in Indy, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. But you're a 49ers fan. How that?
Yep. Joe Montana, simply put.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Stars certainly make us cheer for teams, that's for sure. But let me ask you this. If you're from Chicago, let's talk about the Bears. Signed Caleb Williams, their number 1 overall pick. What is it, $37 million? Stupid money. What's the expectation for the Bears? For the Bears in 2024.
Do you want my answer, the truthful answer, or what Bear fans have been saying to me?
I want yours. That's why you're here.
Wasted pick, wasted money. Simply put, they could have done so much better in choosing a quarterback to lead their team. This is something I've said on my show so many times over. First of all, the demise of the Bears began when Aaron Rodgers marched down the field on them in an NFC Championship game, punched him in the mouth, punched it in the end zone, and they have not been able to recover. Now they get Caleb Williams to try to team up with DJ Moore, who was a number 2 wide receiver at best, and you got 31-year-old Keenan Allen, who was let go from the Chargers, not only because of a money cap, but because of the drops. And now you're trusting this offense in the hands of a young rookie that's going to underuse the biggest weapon that they have in their backfield, and his name is DeAndre Swift.
I'm just ensconced I just love listening to you. I got to tell everybody, we both air on WQEE, the Snowman and I both. I've been at this game, this perilous trade, a long time, and I think Brian is as good a broadcaster as I've ever heard, and I think all of our audience would agree. So to this, Brian, I was on your show last week. It was big fun. We talked about the 49ers. Brock Purdy didn't make that top 10 list of quarterbacks. You must have seen the list that was floated around from NFL executives. He couldn't find the top 10 list with a GPS. And some are saying the 49ers fluked their way into the Super Bowl. What do you think?
If that's the case, then we fluked in 4 other times with Joe Montana and another time with Steve Young. The Niners have a propensity to find the quarterback they need to lead their offense. I mean, once upon a time, they had Jeff Garcia leading their offense, and all he did was set a Niners record, which has since been broken by the aforementioned Brock Purdy, of the most passing yards in the 49ers quarterback season. The NFL just does not like Brock Purdy, and I'll give you 3 good reasons. 1, he's good at what he does. 2, he commands the offense around him, and no one likes to see a quarterback have that kind of command very quickly on an offense. And thirdly, and most importantly, you just said it, an unknown quarterback, a.k.a. Mr. Irrelevant, who became very irrelevant very quickly due to 2 mind-numbing injuries, took the 49ers to a Super Bowl. Who is supposed to do that in that short amount of time if your name's not Dan Marino, if your name's not Troy Aikman, if your name's not Terry Bradshaw or anybody like that?
Yeah. Well, this is what I learned. You're always going to have to prove yourself every day in life. You can never put your feet up. Bill Belichick came. We win 6 Super Bowls, 300 games, and nobody will hire him. Like people think he's lost his mind. So the 49ers, they need to get back to the Super Bowl to prove that it wasn't a fluke. Now, I'm just going to rehash what you and I talked about on your show last week. I was at the Super Bowl. In the aftermath, people streaming out of Allegiant Stadium in Vegas saying that Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers coach, didn't know the overtime rules, and he blew it. And you don't agree with that. You don't believe that story.
I don't buy it. I just don't buy it, because you would think, and this is me, the years of learning overtime football, playoff style as opposed to the regular season, you would think he was advised of the overtime rules. So you want to tell me all of a sudden he didn't know the overtime rules in the biggest game of the year when the same rules apply during the regular season? I don't buy it, and I won't buy it.
I think it's possible. I really do. He hasn't admitted to that. He has not admitted to that. No, it's different rules in the playoffs than it is in the regular season, and I think he forgot that. I fully believe that. I really do. Now, here's Moose's NFC North predictions. And listen, I caught him off guard. I didn't even tell him I was going to throw it at him, and I'm actually kind of catching you off guard here. But it's got the Vikings fans all mad. You heard from Brian texting in. He's got them last. Mm-hmm. He's got Detroit, Green Bay, Chicago, Minnesota. What say you?
I got Detroit, Green Bay, and then Minnesota and Chicago tied for last.
Or tied for third, depending how you want to look at it. Why are you not sold on the Vikings? Because they don't know who their number one quarterback is going into training camp?
Bingo. You're going to put the quarterbacking duties in the hands of Sam Bradford, who has been ruined two separate times. The third time, he rode the coattails of Brock Purdy for a year. Sam Darnold. Thank you. Then you got the curious case of the Chicago Bears, and we just touched on that.
Yeah. Hey. Ryan O'Radio checking in down there in Atlanta from WQEE. He says, Snowman on the RP show, crossover, LOL. I say it's just like when Tootie from The Facts of Life used to show up on Different Strokes. It was like, what just happened? I couldn't get my 9-year-old mind around it, watching it in the living room of the farmhouse. You know what I'm saying? When Tootie Ramsey from The Facts of Life showed up on Different Strokes, it was like, what the hell? I think she went to school with Arnold. Something like that. Where do you want to go, man? What are your NFL storylines? Let's give me your top 3 storylines going into the year.
Brandon Ayuk will not be traded, even though he has requested a trade, because 4 years ago, Deebo Samuel supposedly said the same thing, and where is he still playing? Second of all, we already said the other storyline. Everyone's waiting for Brock Purdy to fail, and he's not going to fail. And thirdly, why did the Atlanta Falcons sign Kirk 2 Chainz Cousins, as a friend of mine loves to say, to a massive deal with half of that deal guaranteed, and then you select a quarterback, Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington? Are you trying to alienate your fan base, Atlanta? I mean, it's bad enough you get rid of Arthur Smith, who is the most incompetent football mind I've seen in many, many years, only to couple it with selecting Michael Penix Jr., who I think is going to take over the Falcon offense halfway through the season, because you're talking about a quarterback who's 36 years old and Kirk Cousins coming off of an ACL injury. Explain that one.
Let it snow, let it snow, let it. This guy, you look up hot take in the dictionary and you see that beautiful face, Brian Snow. I look at it this way. It's the most important position on the team, and it ain't close for number 2. Why would you not draft a guy when you went out and spent all the money on Kirk Cousins? Why would you not have as many quarterbacks as cost-effective as you could when you're a team like the Atlanta Falcons, who think they're just a quarterback away from making some noise? That's how I see it. How come you can't have enough good quarterback?
they had Matt Ryan for 15 years and made one appearance in the Super Bowl. Let me say that again. They had
Stop
Matt
living in the
Ryan
past.
for 15 seasons because for many people in Atlanta, they thought Matt Ryan would be the answer after they got so close in the Super Bowl down in Houston. We all know how that story ended.
Utah Darren writes in and says, Caleb Williams is not a leader. Seen him in person here in Utah. Lost to Utah 3 straight times. I cried. He cried each time. To be honest, I don't really have a problem with that. As a guy that's, you and I've talked about this when I was on your show. I've been calling play-by-play and been with teams for 36 years. And I've seen guys cry. I want a guy that wants to win. If that means he's not a leader. I thought you were going to say that he was a jerk to his teammates and he sulked and blah, blah, blah. I've seen a lot of guys cry. That didn't bother me. I think there are other red flags around Caleb Williams. That's not one. Let me ask you this:
the red flags that I have around Caleb, the red flags that I have around Caleb Williams involve his footwork, involve his arm speed, and involve him getting the ball down the field. Because his best days were at Oklahoma when he had weapons. He had a few good weapons at Southern California. Didn't use him. And to the fellow who wrote in about seeing Caleb Williams lose to Utah 3 consecutive years, all I needed to know about Caleb Williams was the final game he played against Utah in the Coliseum in Los Angeles. He fought so hard to get USC the lead, only to not be there emotionally for his team when Utah walked right down the field in 95 seconds and walked off.
Well, this is why we see what we see, and Utah Darren is there. And by the way, his pick for the NFC North is Lions, Packers, Vikings, Bears. Yeah, that would be mine. He says Caleb will struggle, but here's the thing. You're paying millions to a general manager, more personnel people than you can shake a bloody stick at. And all your scouts, and you've got face-to-face interviews. You've watched them live in college, and you watched them in the combine. I got to defer to that they might know what they're doing, although it looks like they don't. History would indicate they don't, but I want to defer that just based on what we're seeing with his interviews and the stupid things he's said, that's just the media vilifying him, and he's not that dumb. Let us please bring in the snowman. Good enough to stick with us for another segment. I'm looking for my noisemakers here because John Ohm in Winnipeg is watching. He's written in. Number 1, he says, everyone loves a winner. I thought he wrote everybody loves a wiener because it's National Hot Dog Day, everybody, and we're still waiting to see who's got the best hot dog in Moose Jaw. I haven't had a lot of contestants. And Snowman says, he says, Snowman, do the Chiefs three-peat? We got to know. Everybody's saying they're saying that's the biggest story. Why do you say that?
Because they're running to Brock Purdy and the 49ers again. That's a cliffhanger.
Last year.
Yeah, and
why would you think they would do it again?
The Detroit Pistons kept beating the Chicago Bulls, and the Bulls figured it out. Why can't people easily believe in the fact that as much as the Chiefs have kicked the 49ers down, Super Bowl 54 and Super Bowl 58, why don't think we can figure it out in Super Bowl 59 or 60 in Santa Clara?
Fair.
I'm not saying it won't be. I'm not saying it won't be a hell of a game. I mean, come on, it's the Chiefs and the 49ers. We're talking about the 2 best offenses in the NFL. In fact, I've made some joke. I've made a lot of jokes with a friend of mine on my show who's a Chiefs fan, and we are both saying jokingly that it'll be the first triple-digit Super Bowl that we'll ever see, and it'll come down to the person who has the most arm strength left after throwing it all over the field 100 times. Come on, I mean, this is it's a cliffhanger waiting to happen.
Are you talking combined points? First triple-digit combined?
It could be anyone who has played Madden knows that if you put the settings correctly, you could score 100 points in a game. Will that happen when these two get together? No, it won't. It won't happen.
And what was it?
But
I think it was 37-34, I think, was Super Bowl last year.
25-22 was the score in favor of the Chiefs in overtime. That was the final.
Sub 30 points, eh? Jeremy in Winnipeg writes, and he says, this is the best Chiefs team, even though they won back-to-back. Good O-line, upgraded wide receiver, defense. He says, the 49ers tossed everything at Mahomes, and he took mental notes all game and used all their plays to his advantage. He's a great player, but also a great student of the game. My question to you, Snowman, who goes further, the Dolphins or the Cowboys this year? I'm mired as a Cowboys fan living in the Miami area. It's torturous in a lot of ways. Who do you think goes further this year?
You now know what I went through for many years living in Chicago as a 49er fan. Who goes further? Dolphins. I'd have to say the Dolphins for a very simple reason. They have the players capable to do something basic. Run the football. Even in this day and age where it's a quarterback's league, you have to run the football.
Yeah, Raheem Mostert looks like the guy coming back this year. But it's interesting when you said, by the way, that the 49ers and Chiefs have the best offenses in the NFL. Were you not watching when the Dolphins dropped 70 on the Broncos that Sunday at Hard Rock Stadium? The Dolphins got to be in the conversation.
No, and I'll tell you why. Tua is inconsistent. As much as I like the talent of Tagovailoa, he's inconsistent, and so is his offensive line. You can't put up 70 points. You can't put up 70 points every game, although the 98 Vikings and the 94 49ers will try to tell you different because they had two of the highest scoring averages in NFL history. But you only go as far as your offensive line, and you only go as far as your running game will take you. The offensive line for Miami, the last half of the season, they lost 4 out of their 5 starters. And if you look at the last 2 games they played, the AFC East Championship, hosting the Buffalo Bills, and the playoff game, the wild card game in Kansas City, both of those problems came to fruition.
Jeremy, also in Winnipeg, says, so then is Dallas going to sign CeeDee Lamb, let Dak walk, and hopefully tank enough for a quarterback in the draft? No. You're thinking too much, Jeremy. And are you a Cowboys fan? Number one, in Dallas, we don't plan to lose. We had Zig Fracassi on Monday. No, I'm serious. That's not the plan, is not to tank in Dallas. Never has been, never was. Not in the Jerry Jones era.
Right.
I don't like him,
right,
but that's not the plan.
Right.
The plan is this. Everything falls on Dak and Mike McCarthy, by the way, in this year of 2024. Get it done or you're gone. And that's the exciting thing with what's going on with the Dallas Cowboys right now. But it's not the plan is to win it all or we clean house. That's what it is. I don't need to ask you or anybody else because that's my team. Finish this sentence, please, Brian Snowman. Aaron Rodgers will blank.
Get beat up in game 1. Let me truthfully finish that sentence. Aaron Rodgers will play 15 games. You're asking a 40-year-old quarterback who has done everything possible and has nothing left to prove and is coming off of a major injury to bounce back. So what does the NFL do to him? Oh yeah, let's throw him to Santa Clara in week 1.
Yeah, it is what it is. In my mind, there are no easy games in the National Football League. There aren't. Hey, I got a last one here. I was with an NFL alum on the weekend. Our diehard fans know who they were, who it was. And I just, I'm not a basketball guy. I never will be. Shoot, I just got baseball going this summer for the first time in my life. I'm not going to add basketball now. But we were talking about Bronny. And I said, does LeBron James Jr. have it? And he goes, He don't. He goes, he's playing right now in the summer league, and he is not that. And that he feels sorry for the kid because it's nepotism, and the kid isn't good enough. He feels bad. What's your take on the LeBron James Jr. playing with the Lakers story?
He took a spot he didn't earn. Simply put, he took a spot and a contract that he did not earn. I've gotten so much backlash for saying that simple sentence. And I counter with a question. Have you seen him play?
Well, I hope you're not asking me because I sure the hell haven't. But
Rod, you don't want to see him play. All right? You don't want to see him play. I mean, Jody came to me. It does happen. It does happen. It happens all the time. Jody came to me when all the ballyhoo about Bronny getting drafted. Jody came to me and says, "You're not going to waste any time watching this kid, are you?" I said, "Honey, I've watched basketball for 45 years. I know talent, and this ain't it." And she says, "That's all I need to hear."
Yeah. That's what my guy, and listen, I don't think Torrey would mind. It was Torrey Gurley, and he just goes, he's not what they're building him up to be. And I said, if that's the case, then I feel bad for the kid. I mean, I'm extremely close to the Chris and Deron Carter situation. In that, Chris and I belong to the same gym in South Florida, and I was with the Rough Riders with Deron. And it's not, Chris Carter isn't the greatest of all time, but you know what I mean. The pressure on the kid is unbelievable. It is. It's beyond.
It's not fun either to live up to that much expectation because of what his father did. I sort of went through it when I saw the development of Marcus Jordan, when I called games for Whitney Young in Chicago. Had a chance to see both Jeffrey and Marcus when they played at Loyola Academy in Chicago. And then Proud Papa shows up and then the whole house moves. It's the same situation, only it's worse because they expect so much out of Bronny, and he's just not built, and he's just not ready.
Like our prime minister back in the day. But you don't know anything about that, nor should you. Snowman, we gone. You know I don't say anything I don't mean, and I think you are one of the absolute best, brother. Thank you for the time, and let's keep in touch and enjoy the training camps. We'll be doing it again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you much. I really appreciate it.
Look him up.
Thank you very much.
Love you too, pal. Look him up on WQEE. Look him up, Brian Snow, Snowman Digital Network, Snowman in the Morning.